My name is Beth. This is my husband, Steve. And we have a testimony of the healing that God did for the two of us that we would like to share. We're from Grand Rapids. We've lived in the area for several years now. And we have a very significant healing and miracle, you could call it, I guess, of what happened to the two of us. Back in 1986, after the birth of my first daughter, our first daughter, I never had headaches like ever in my life. And all of a sudden, after our oldest daughter, Anna, was born, I started getting these really weird headaches. And they'd kind of come and go, and I could take medication and sleep it off. And, then they'd go away. And as time passed, they would become more and more frequent. And then after the birth of our third child, the headaches got much more severe, and we knew it was, time to quit having children and start to try to deal with these headaches. And as time passed, the headaches started to get worse and worse. And several years later, then I would have a migraine headache for 8 days, and then it would go away for 8 days. Then it would come back for 8 days and then go away for 8 days. And I would be in a dark room for 16 days out of the month. And I would say like in about 1999 or so, then all of a sudden the pain locked in. Where I had, after the 8 days, the headache it stayed. And I remember being on the phone in my doctor's office saying, well, I know this headache is going to go away. It always does. And a week later, I still had this headache. And a week later, I still had this headache. So basically what happened was I had a migraine headache for, I would say, about a total of 4.5 to 5 years, where the pain out of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, I would give a 9 to 10 most of the time. The majority of people that I knew did not know that I had this much pain because I just went through life. I held my job, I cared for my family, and went about my daily business, and most people did not know. And at the time, throughout the course of those several years, I saw probably 7 to 8 physicians. They put me on about every medication you could ever imagine to prevent a headache, to abort a headache. I had Botox treatments where they would inject Botox into my forehead to relieve the pain. They would do like a lidocaine wheel, they called it, where they take lidocaine and steroids, inject it into my head to stop the pain. I had acupuncture. I had food testing. I followed a prescribed diet for any foods I might be allergic to. I would go into the emergency room and leave with as much pain as I had when I arrived. So I knew there was really no reason to even go into the emergency room. So basically what happened, the pain by October of 2004 had gotten so severe that I took a leave of absence from work. And I thought, well, this is going to be temporary, I'll get better. And basically what happened at that time was I entered into a spare bedroom of our home. And that became my home for several months, where I entered into a dark room. It was a spare bedroom, and I lived there because the pain was so intense. And the daily routine at that time was my husband put a tarp over the window. The room was totally dark. My husband, we had an ice machine. He would pack my head in ice and go off to work. Our kids, all 3 of our children at that time were in high school, and they would go off to school, and here I was in this dark room. And the only time I really left the room was when I would go to the doctor's office. And also at that time, I went to a physician here in Grand Rapids that he told me basically what happened was I was in a state of what they call a rebound because I had been on so much medication for so long that when that medication would wear off, I would again get in pain, so I would take more medication to relieve the pain. Then after several hours it would wear off, so that was what was considered a rebound headache. So I went to his pain clinic for 6 weeks, and I lived with my husband's parents at that time because I was in such a state I could not be alone. And went there for 6 weeks, and he got me at least out of the state of rebound, off all the medication I was on, but I was still in just a boatload of pain. And he referred me to a neurological institute in another major city here in Michigan, where we went to for several months. And more medication and no relief. So I pretty much at that time resigned myself to the only way out of this room, in my mind, was to die. I didn't think there was any way out. And every night, every night before I would go to sleep, I was on so much medication even then, that I would take my medication and it would just make me sleep. And I would ask God before I went to sleep, either you take me in your sleep and let me die in my sleep, or you return. Or you return for the second coming. And I thought that was the only way out of that room.